Welcome to Candid Conversations with Michael Scott.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Scott, and welcome to Michael Scott's Candid Conversations. This gentleman here, I feel like I've been chasing the Yeti this summer. This guy is Robert Blackwell Jr., and he's been a mystery man here in Omaha. He's blown down from Chicago. And let me just read what Wikipedia says about you. It says, Robert Blackwell Jr. is a Chicago-based American businessman and a savvy and successful entrepreneur. That's according to the Los Angeles Times. He's the founder and CEO of EKI-Digital, a technology consulting firm. He is the CEO of Killerspin, a manufacturer of table tennis equipment that hosts internationally televised tournaments. And Blackwell is also a former employer of then State Senator Barack Obama, as well as a political supporter and personal friend of Obama. And as you told us when I met you, that you gave Obama his first job.
I don't know if he gave him his first job, but after
his first legal job.
But he was a lawyer for our company for a while. But he and I were friends. We're the same age. He's a little bit younger than me, about 9 months younger than me. And I met him in 1992. We became friends, and he didn't take a rocket science to see that he was pretty smart. And we had a new company, needed a lawyer, and that was kind of it. Kind of worked out.
So you gave him his first paycheck, his first legal paycheck.
I'm sure somebody else paid him before me, but he worked for kind of with our company for a little while.
Well, first of all, welcome to Omaha.
Thank you.
With your track record, I will admit, I was surprised. I'm going, why is he coming to Omaha? And the second time I met you was through Tim Clark. It was at his house in the garage, and everybody was around this ping pong table. Now, I don't play ping pong, but everyone's going, have you played yet? Have you played yet? I'm going, it's ping pong. Yeah. From what I heard, the table is sublime. How did black guys start making ping pong tables? See, we grew up, the Chinese were doing the ping pong.
Well, they still do. So, I was a trader for a long time. So in the year 2000, I thought the stock market was going to go bad. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that we should diversify my technology company to doing business in the public sector, because we'd never done any business in the public sector. And Chicago had something called the Ping Pong Festival. So we took $100,000 and sponsored the Ping Pong Festival. And whenever there were tables, there were just lines of people to play. So they'd asked me to be the chairman of that event. And then I started the next year get what I call this entrepreneurial itch. So I thought about why everybody in the world knows table tennis. Nobody can name the name of a brand. And I said, black people play sports, but they don't own anything in sports. Mm-hmm. So we are going to start a table tennis company, and we're going to be the leading company in the world in that space.
I could not believe the excitement in that garage when I pulled up. I'm going, what are they all getting crazy for here and lining up to play against you? That was the funny part. You're pretty good, huh? Did you used to work for Pete Ricketts?
No. I've never had a job actually in my whole life. It's not true. I worked at IBM a little bit, but the Ricketts family, they own the Chicago Cubs.
Yes.
So I know his brothers, and I was at the Republican Governors Association because, of course, I'm the only black guy that goes there, and I tell them that they need to pay attention to black people. So I spoke to the governor, really about two things: about efficiency in government. And what we can do to create, why it was important, first of all, for black people to be a part of the economy in proportion to our talent.
Yeah. Did you go after Ricketts because of your relationship with that you knew the Ricketts family?
No, I'm kind of like the Mau that goes telling people, business people, they need to pay attention to black people.
Okay. So you've done this to other governors too?
I've done this to plenty of people. Yes, sir.
So finish your conversation with Ricketts. How was he receptive?
He was, and he invited me. Then I met the head of economic development here, Tony Goins.
Tony, yeah.
And then I just met other people. I gave a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, the Omaha Chamber of Commerce. And essentially the message is, and it's the same message that Booker T. Washington gave 120 years ago, where he said, America's never going to be what it can be until blacks get included in the economy. He said, we don't need to live around you, but we do have to be a part of the economy. A lot of people believe in socialism, which I don't. But if we don't prove that this system, a free enterprise system, works for everybody, everybody can lose it.
Yes. Robert, as someone who was well connected in Chicago, why did you come to Omaha, though, to try out your experiment?
Well, no, listen, I got this little Mau message I take all over the country, frankly, but I saw some receptivity, and
Is this from Tony Owens?
Not just from the governor and from different people here. I think there are people of goodwill here that are both black and white, and I just kind of like the place. And this is the birthplace of Malcolm X, who I'm a big fan of. Mm-hmm. So, I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. So I'm from a little country town.
Okay, so Wichita, Kansas, the home of Pizza Hut. I think so.
I don't know. I know it's
aviation and pizza.
It's aviation and running backs, actually. Gale Sayers and Barry Sanders.
Yes. No, years ago, I did a thing about all the pizza companies, and we had to go to Wichita because that was home of Pizza Hut, if I remember.
I didn't know that. Yes. I left when I was 12, so.
I guess I'm giving all the doubts that I hear from other people about, well, why is he here? What are we supposed to do with him? Is he living here? Is he a carpetbagger? Is he blowing in and blowing out?
Well, the answer is no. I spend about 30% of my time here. And I see the reason why I'm here and focused on the Alpha mission is because I believe that as Black men, it's responsibility to create a pathway of success for these younger people. And I think that if God, what I believe is that God's going to punish us if when we leave this world, Black people are in the same position they're in today. So for some reason, I think God likes low IQ people. So I've been fairly lucky in my life, but I benefited from not just my parents, which God gave me really great parents. I had a father, my father, he's still alive. Both my parents are still alive, who always taught us, to be proud to be who we are. So, and he said, you can love your own people without hating anybody else. Mm. So I grew up in the 60s. I was born in 1960. So my hero was like Muhammad Ali, who went to school with my mother. My mother's from Louisville,
okay, cool.
Louisville, Kentucky. And my father, who was the first Black salesman for IBM in the Midwest. And, my grandfather, my father's father, was the first Black admitted to the University of Pennsylvania, but he couldn't go because his father died. He had to go to work. He ended up being a janitor, working 3 jobs, tutoring my father in Latin and geometry. So I think we owe it to those people that came before us to do something for those who are going to come after us. I don't think my generation has done anything significant for Black people. I think we've lived off what our parents and grandparents have done. So I think it is our responsibility to create a pathway of success and to fight for those people in our community, just like Booker T. Washington did and others did. I mean, think about all the great Blacks in history who really suffered consequences for fighting for our people. You don't get the same thing today. I don't have to go through what Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or Ali or any of those guys did. All we have to do is to convince business people. I believe business people of goodwill, that if we work together, it'll be a better country.
You and I come from similar backgrounds, or at least similar age, where my parents are immigrants and the whole mantra was...
From where?
Jamaica.
I knew that. I was going to say you're from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
All the New Yorkers are from the Caribbean.
You've been there, yeah. And the thing was, the child must do better than the parent.
Yeah, look, part of my family is also from immigrant. My mother's father was a Cuban immigrant. So I do think that we owe it to those people that came before us. I got nothing better to do than study history and economics and philosophy and math. There are people that really had to deal with a lot of crap for us to have the opportunities we have. life is not nearly as hard for us today as it was for them. But in some ways, we've retrogressed. Black communities are not as well off today as most of them were in 1967.
Well, which kind of runs the gamut for all of the middle class, has not really come up. But because we are the lower part of the middle class, it hurts us more, isn't it?
No, it's not no. The middle class, I think, is a little bit of a fallacy, how much the middle class has shrunk. Mm-hmm. I think it's not true. Real GDP is higher than it was in the 1960s. I think what happens is people have this nostalgia for the 1950s, where you get out of high school, you work in a factory town, you work there until your whole life.
And you get a gold watch.
Yeah, exactly. You know, life's different. So anybody who's involved in the modern parts of the economy is doing well now. Digital workers make 73% more than other private sector workers on average. Just like if you went back in history in the 1950s, anybody that was still in the, horse and buggy industry, they weren't doing too well. Yeah. So the great thing about the free enterprise system is that it enables innovation. And too often, when you're not innovating, you get stuck in the past. And when you get stuck in the past, you're not creating new value. There's all kinds of opportunities in this country. So if what you're doing is, if you worked in a factory and you're in a small town, yeah, life's not good. But if you live in the most urban areas, the middle class is kind of doing okay.
Have you gotten a crash course on places like 24th Street in North Omaha, which in the past, till up to the 60s, used to be a vibrant community? But what caused a lot of the crash was that a lot of the meat packing plants closed down, and they were giving Blacks great jobs, great salaries, benefits, and then they were gone. You met downstairs Terry Sanders, who's with the Omaha Star. She'd be a great source for you if you need more. But one of the things I worked with Juanita Johnson, who's the city council member now, who just got voted in May, is how do we get those businesses back? How do we have that land that's just sitting there with nothing on it but brush?
Why do you think that's important?
Because usually if you build a business there, you have jobs, you train people, you put them in the jobs. See, that's one of the problems with North Omaha. You don't have home ownership.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Go for it.
I don't know the neighborhoods of, let's go pick a wealthy area of Omaha.
Regency.
Okay, how many people that live in that neighborhood work in that neighborhood?
Probably not a lot of them.
Wealthy people do not work in their own neighborhoods. Okay. They go to work. There used to be factory towns. So you live, work kind of in the same campus pretty much. Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Probably. You lived and worked in the same area. Now, with the service economy, you don't do that. So neighborhood jobs are typically low-level service jobs. They don't pay a lot of money. So you have to be a part of all parts of the economy. And I think that when you over-focus on real estate, and when I was jokingly telling people, I met Johnny Rogers. I was having lunch with him one day, and I gave him the story of North Omaha, and I've never been here. And I said, I bet in 1967, North Omaha was a lot better. It was all Black. You knew everybody's mother and fathers primarily.
There were a lot of white businesses, though, at that time that fled.
There were white businesses everywhere. Mm-hmm. But in general, we had an economically integrated Black neighborhood.
Yes.
Because before segregation, by the way, there was no difference in Wichita, Kansas, or Chicago, Illinois,
or Harlem, New York,
or any other place in the country. The same dynamics worked. So the issue is, how do groups go from poverty to prosperity? That's the issue, not how we have nostalgia for the 1950s. So one of the things, after Barack was elected, I got invited to do a tour of India. And I met with somebody in the central bank and a lot of the head of their large IT companies. And the guy in the central bank gave me the story. He said, 1991, we figured out socialism doesn't work. The government started to free their economy, They did business with their small entrepreneurs, which prepared them for the international market. And then U.S. business just did business with capable Asian entrepreneurs, those in India and China. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Africa, India, or China.
I've been to India twice.
Okay. Poverty over there is a lot different than poverty over here.
It's extremes of poverty and extremes of wealth in India, yes.
Yeah. So you don't see people here moving stuff with cows.
Yeah.
And mules. So
through downtown, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm saying there is a different level of poverty in other parts of the world. So in a period of 20 years, India and China took 750 million people out of poverty. That's double the population of the United States. So in the same period, Black people in this country got more poor. So while people here were focused on real estate and charity and government programs and all this stuff, what they did is they freed their economy. U.S. business just did business with capable Asian entrepreneurs who hired and inspired the next generation, and they went from poverty to prosperity. Economics, just like gravity, works the exact same place everywhere in the world.
I went to India with Vinod Gupta, who used to he started Info USA, self-made millionaire, built a school for girls, a tech school back there, and went back with him to cover that story. And I can't believe it's as easy as you say in 20 years to turn something around like that.
Oh, it's a fact.
So what you've learned in India, what's the first steps we take to see your alpha mission?
By the way, it's actually that's not the first time in history this has been done. If you look at our history, starting with, I think we've had there's been two big movements, there needs to be a third. The first movement was the movement around the abolition of slavery.
Okay.
And you had to have whites and Blacks work together on that. If every white person in the country was dedicated to slavery, we wouldn't have got out of slavery, or we would have disappeared from the earth, like the Native Americans. The next movement after that was the Civil Rights Movement, which was the essence of that was to dismantle Jim Crow, to say we need one set of rules for everybody. And that's what Martin Luther King said. We need one set of rules. That's what the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act were about. But in 1968, in an interview with Harry Belafonte, Martin Luther King said, while the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act were necessary, they did almost nothing to help Black people come out of poverty. And it's true.
Yes.
In fact, we focus a lot on voting, and everybody should have the right to vote. But voting does not equate to economic prosperity. Blacks vote as much or more than anybody else, depending on who's
running.
Depending on who's running. Asians vote the least, and they're the wealthiest.
So give me your game plan for the next 5 years for Omaha, Nebraska.
So Alpha Mission. Alpha Mission is a movement of people of goodwill dedicated to proving that the free enterprise system works for everybody. So the theme of this is to just do business. That's the solution for companies to just do business, companies and government to do business with Black people in proportion to our talent, and then tie opportunity to responsibility for bringing other people along. So we created something called the Lead Partner Program. The Lead Partner Program says to CEOs and government officials who have procurement, just do business with a qualified Black company and just pick one and you're done. But be open to innovative ideas from Black companies, and then ask other people to follow your lead.
Have you seen any Black companies so far in Omaha? You've been here, what, 6 months maybe?
A year.
A year. Have you seen any companies, Black owned, that have the wherewithal to take off?
That's what we started one here, and we're kind of starting with young people. But listen, if you're given an opportunity, there is no lack of talent in our community. What we need is an ecosystem of support. So the other part is, so if you're Black and you get opportunity, You have three responsibilities. One is you have to identify a clear value proposition because you can't be in business. Imagine now somebody gave me an opportunity to be a basketball player. That ain't happening. I got no talent there.
I'm the only 6-foot black guy from New York who doesn't play basketball.
Okay, I'm a 6-foot black guy from Chicago, so we're even.
And do they always choose you up and you go?
No, when I was young,
yeah,
listen, I could play a little when I was young, but I wasn't going into, I wasn't going to be Allen Iverson, who's the same height as me.
Played 3 games of basketball.
So
go ahead.
But then the black companies have these three responsibilities. One is to identify a clear value proposition. Because again, if you can't do that, you can't be in business. Then in exchange for that opportunity, you have to take on the responsibility of the mentor. So the black companies become the prime and the subs, the mentors and the proteges. And then third, you take on what I call this community enrichment responsibility. So we fund small black IT companies. We fund something called mowers and blowers. It's microfinance for cutting grass and moving snow, because when there's grass on the ground and snow, there's money there. Yeah. If you can be a billionaire picking up garbage, you can make money doing just about anything.
That's true.
So the Alpha mission is trying to get people to just do business. And then what we do is we have another company that's called Quant 16 that helps them find efficiencies and helps them find the black companies they can do business with. And out of that, we fund the Alpha mission, which is creating jobs. We're training people how to be strategic sourcing agents. So the idea is we have created a modern version of the Black Wall Streets. So imagine 120 years ago, in the middle of the Jim Crow South, you had prosperous black towns. In fact, the height of black business was between 1910 and 1930. So you had 81 of these freedom colonies. In fact, the most famous one, which is the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, they had, which is started by 2 black entrepreneurs. One of them was a great grandfather of a friend of mine who's a business guy named John Rogers in Chicago.
I saw his name.
Okay.
Looking up Johnny Rogers, I saw his name.
Yeah, John Rogers. So
if someone, because we're coming up on time, if someone's watching right now who has a business or is looking forward to starting a business, how do they reach? Do they reach you?
I would say you can just go to alphamission.com. But I would say if you're in business, you got to understand the fundamentals of business. Don't rush into a business. A lot of times people focus on business because they want something for themselves. The way to win in business is not to think about yourself, but to think about somebody else. You get paid for delivering value to a customer because nobody cares about you in business.
Yeah. All you got to do is look back at the successful ones. They were supplying something. Before I let you go, one interesting thing I saw about your bio is your daughter. When I worked in Kansas City, I worked with a group of mothers with autistic children. And it was always weird to find a father still hands-on in the process. Tell me about your daughter.
Well, listen, God bless me with a really beautiful daughter. And
how old is she now?
She's 24 now. 24, yeah. We found out after she was 2, she had autism, but I have to give her mother all the credit. I mean, all I did is.
That's what the mother said. That's what the mother said.
To be honest with you, your mother did 95% of the work. I just made sure that my wife could stay home and she could focus on her. But as part of Killerspin, what we're doing is we're starting something called an agent program, because Killerspin, the table tennis company, is about helping people to connect to the people that they love and that need their love through play. So we're starting this agent program where young people who are affected by autism will be our agents, and they get paid just like any other insurance agent so that they can live in dignity, because there are a lot of people that are affected by this. And one of the big challenges you have as a parent is what's going to happen to your child after they get out of school and these social programs that they have.
Is your daughter on her own now at 24?
She still lives with my ex-wife, and she spends about 3-4 days a week with me working.
All right, man. I give you kudos on that big time. I'm going to be sending people your way, okay? I'm going to tell them alphaspin.com. Alphamission.com, because I hear a lot of people who are looking for direction. And I think that may be something you supply. Robert Blackwell Jr., welcome to Omaha.
Thank you,
And
thank you,
thanks for
thank you,
coming
thank you.
on the show. I appreciate it. Until next time, you take care of one another.
Thank you for watching Candid Conversations with Michael Scott. If you'd like to make suggestions, email us at ewcfacts@gmail.com. That's ewcfacts@gmail.com. This has been an EWC Communication production.